Train by day, Kyle Wigington podcast by night, all day.
John Wiese. That is I. Hello, Kyle.
Damn. Use this. Wow, it's so resonant. I feel like I'm like a spy film.
Is that how you say it? John Wiese?
Well, John Wiese, actually.
John Wiese. Okay.
I'm so used to people saying Wiese that I forget to correct. And Wiese at the doctor's office, so I'll forget to correct it often. And one day it's just gonna like an invasive species. It's just going to overtake me, and I will be Wiese.
Well, you've watched Rocky Horror Picture Show, right?
Yes, of course.
One of the greatest movies ever, plays ever too. Wiese, that's why when I wanted to call you Wiese.
Yeah, and I'll take that. I'm honored. It's a lot cooler than Wiese. Wiese is actually Visa. It's German for meadow. Meadows aren't cool. They're serene, but I wouldn't say they're hip. They're not. You don't meet them at a bar on a Saturday night. But
speaking of Germans,
jawohl.
You speak German?
Ich spreche ein bisschen Deutsch.
Is that yes?
Yeah,
that's Dutch. Is that the same language?
Yeah, Deutsch is German for German, and it's I speak. So I'm in German. I'm in my German 4 class in my at LSU. So
oh really?
Yeah.
So I think it's fascinating the names in German.
Yeah.
So I have a friend whose name is Schwarzbach.
Oh, that's cool.
So that is what is that? It's the Black River or something?
Yeah, black. I don't know. Yeah, German for that also unfortunately doesn't mean fluent. I know Schwarz is black, like Schwarzwald, the Black Forest. Like probably could mean river. That's cool. I know Fluss also means river. So
I like to look up. I'm a huge fan of words.
Yeah, like etymology and stuff.
Well, not etymology, but like God, if I wasn't hungover today, I could think about everything. Gematria.
Sounds fancy. What would that mean?
So it's basically where every letter has a numerical value.
Oh, cool.
So you can add up the letters in the words. Oh, so you get a numerical value for each word.
Like 1 through 26 kind of?
Yeah. But there's different numerical values. If you take the old languages like Hebrew, I forget the other languages, but it's like three languages that are like the old languages. And each one of those has a numerical value to their alphabet. And you can actually add the words up. So, for instance, mother is 43. Excuse me, mother is 41. Father is 3. And if you add those up, you get child.
Oh, that's bizarre.
Yeah.
That's really, is that intentional?
I don't know. But that's why that fascinates me. So anytime like I hear like words and it's like, what do these things mean? And what are the numerical values of them? I love that. I have an Excel spreadsheet at home that's just like layered with words and numbers.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. You
could use that that sounds like from poetry in the works there.
Oh, I didn't think about that. Yeah. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of like patterns and numbers. So when it comes to things like, look at like names and like what they mean and stuff, especially in names that we take for granted. Like for instance, Schwarzbach. Like you would never know that meant something unless you understood the German language. Yeah, and like
most names come from words that most mean something. Like my mom's maiden name is Waits. That means watcher. Like they're probably like in the old hunter camps. They were the watchers at night who looked out for invaders and whatnot.
Yeah.
So
I guess my family was wig makers.
Oh, that's cool.
I don't know. I'm just saying we're Wigington.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I'm assuming it was for wigs.
Yeah. Have you ever tried making a wig? Do you think you might have a knack for it?
So I don't make wigs for your head, but I make wigs for your vaginas.
I was going to say this could go somewhere. It did go there.
Yeah. Merkins. Yeah.
Oh,
have you ever seen my Merkins?
I have not.
Oh, bro. I have one displayed over there on the, where the t-shirt display is for the bar. Yes. One of my Merkins is there too.
What can you define Merkin for me?
Yeah. It's a wig for your pubic area.
Wow. So like, it sounds like it gets useful in pornography, but people enjoy the.
I would say the best use for these things in today's society, because most people do shave, is in the film industry.
Yeah.
So if you're doing a 70s piece and you don't want the actors to all have to grow their pubic hair out,
fair.
Take a Merkin, slap it on there.
Wow. Just peel off the label and apply. They just look natural? You get some that look like old English wigs?
You can, yeah. Yeah. Like, I've actually made some out of my beards.
Oh, hair. Wow. Yeah. Have you given them to relatives a Christmas gift?
No. So the beard ones, the beard ones didn't really work out well because my barber told me that I didn't put leave-in conditioner in them. So the hair got brittle.
Oh, wow.
But apparently you have to put leave-in conditioner in those. Most of the ones I make them out of yarn.
I feel like this is like God arranging the heavens. Like this is information I'm going to have that's going to get me out of a tough spot one day.
Oh yeah.
Like I appreciate it. In case like, I'm in order to pass the bridge, I must have a proper array of pubic hair, and then I'm like, well, let me call my buddy up.
Yeah, I got this.
Fashion me a merkin.
I got this, bro. Yeah. I'd be like, what kind do you want? Do you want it to be what color do you want? Do you want it to be a certain pattern?
I want to throw them off. I want as much ginger as you can. That would be proper.
Yeah, well, that's my beard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I'm just gonna take my beard and
Well, this is perfect. I'll put you on speed dial just in case.
Anyway,
moving on.
Yeah. No, this is why I love podcasting, dude, because we talk about absurd shit.
Yeah,
it's good knowledge to have. I feel like there's no knowledge that's not good knowledge to have.
That's true. It's good to it's good to have a safety deposit box up there. You never know what you're gonna need, especially as like songwriting and whatnot, or any kind of artistic endeavor.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were talking about improv comedy, talking about and I'm a songwriter and poetry and whatnot. It's you never know what you're gonna need Merkin for. Or like
the next song you write is gonna be Merkin. Merkin me crazy.
It's gonna Merkin me crazy. It's writing itself. I'm not even gonna have to. Oh, writer, the pen doth have a mind of its own.
So yes, John is a musician.
Yes, indeed. I play the bass guitar primarily, but I also enjoy the acoustic guitar, acoustic blues. I play saxophone, keys, all that kind of business.
Dude, I love watching you perform. That's the best thing ever. Watching you perform is amazing.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I try to bring an animalistic front to what I do.
It's incredible, man. Like the energy you give away to the audience it's got to be exhausting at the end of the night.
Yeah, it is. If I don't need like oxygen support or like by the end, then I always keep like a cot and a full like medical staff just in case.
Yeah.
We did a show yesterday at a Tin Roof Brewery for KLSU's 40th anniversary. And, I have to have my uniform every time I play. My character, I try to put on, he enjoys a trench coat and a helmet.
Dude, I love the helmet that you wear.
Thank you. It's a World War I. It's an actual doughboy helmet. It comes from the trenches. I got it off eBay, guaranteed. And I try to create that kind of aggressive atmosphere, but once you do that, you can't put the trench coat on and then show up to your next gig in slacks. People expect something,
right?
So it's like 80 degrees yesterday in an outdoor gig, and I played in a trench coat and that helmet, and like by the end, people come on like, "Man, that was a great show." Like, thanks, man.
Just killing yourself out there
on the end of my rope, like administering CPR to myself. But it was good. It was really fun, and but yeah, I really appreciate that. I really I tell people like, music is like my love, but it's only 40% of it. The 60% of it's personality.
Yeah.
The majority for sure.
I would say that's everything in life.
Yeah.
Like even doing this right here, like, it's fun to like do these things, but you got to have a personality in front of the camera and on the mic.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Cause like, if I was just, answering yes or no questions for 50 minutes, so there'd be tuning out rather quickly.
Dude, I've had a couple of podcasts that are like that, and it is, and once again, it's exhausting.
Or you're kind of monologuing
it was so bad. Like, and not to talk bad about those people, but like some people just aren't used to being in front of the camera or the microphone in front of the face. Yeah. So as soon as the camera pops out or microphone pops out, they clam up.
Yeah.
And like, it's nothing against them, but it's just like, it's to keep a conversation going for an hour or 2 hours with someone like that, just is difficult.
Yeah, the well runs dry rather quickly, and I think some people also they get nervous.
Yeah.
Maybe you should have a couple of blunts on the table, or maybe like a keg, and just see if that'd be a good utility.
I should, yeah.
Yeah, just loosen them up a good bit. Maybe just let a little gas leak in the room. Just go back, turn the stove on just a little bit,
Dude, I love living in this area.
Yeah.
Right, because what you just said, like have a blunt on the table or something. So where I'm from in Arkansas, like that wouldn't fly.
Yeah, no,
it's such a different place, man. I was at home. What was it like that was like a month ago now, but I went up there and I did some podcasts with different people. And another cool thing about this podcast is I can get anyone in a room now, because all I got to do is say, "Hey, you want to come on the podcast?" Where before that I would say, "Hey, do you want to come sit down and have a 2-hour conversation?" That's not going to fly. No one wants to. Yeah, but if you say, "Hey, come on the podcast," they're like, "Oh, cool." But it's the same fucking thing. It's yeah. So anyway, I got our mayor from our hometown on the podcast, and he lived there his whole life, so he's still in that like mentality. Once again, I don't want to talk bad about the guy because I like the guy a lot. Yeah, but they're just like they're stuck in small town mentality. So when you talk about things like smoking weed and things with those kind of people, it's just it's bad. It's like, what?
That's a taboo. Yeah,
they're not you smoke weed. I even had a police officer on the podcast too while I was up there, and it was kind of the same thing. I had to kind of watch what I said, because I like to talk about cannibalism and stuff a lot.
Of course.
Even though, I'm probably never going to eat a human. but I still like to talk about it.
Yeah, I guess like the whole Merkin situation, you never know. And you're like, if you're if you're stranded in like in the Guineas and you're trying and you have to create a meal, then you might as well know how to cook it. You know, God forbid, like if we have to eat human, it be undercooked.
Long pig, right?
What's that?
They call it long pig.
Do they?
Cannibals do, yeah.
Wow.
Because they say it actually tastes like pork.
Oh, that's good to know. If you know, and again, like in these situations, like if I have to be here, I might as well have a gourmet course available to me.
So Johnny makes music.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it is easy to veer off.
No. So like, what is you brought a whole book in? What did you bring? What's in your book?
Oh, my book there. That is a combination of journals, scribblings, ideas. I carry it with me, just because you never know when something you're gonna say. I used to just use my phone, but I hate staring at a screen. I'll find myself just getting distracted by it, and so I had to alleviate that concern with paper. So that's literally like if I went and grabbed it, it's a lot of ramblings about the interstate, just random like poetic bits, and you write 100 lines and you'll get one that's usable. But like that's how you do it. It's like strip mining. You just have to start wearing away at it, and that's what that is. That journal thoughts and potential songs, potential poetry, etc.
Well, dude, it kind of makes me sad that you didn't bring it with you to sit here, because I'm going to give you some knowledge that you're not writing down right now. I know.
I wish I had longer arms.
So I kind of do the same thing on my phone with my notepad, but it's the thing about the phone is like you never refer back to it. The beautiful thing about having a pad like that is even when you're writing your next line, you're looking at the stuff you did previously. So it's kind of like staying in your mind. Like with me, I'll write I have these great thoughts, especially when I smoke weed. Yeah. I'll have these like amazing fucking thoughts, and I'll put them in my phone, and then I will never look back at it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and that's like, it's really funny. I've every once in a while, like when I'm supremely bored and I've exhausted all the other parts of entertainment, I finally do what I told myself I would do. And like, I will go look at these old phone notes and I'll find stuff. And I'll just have to like most of it's shit, but eventually you'll find something like, oh my God, like, did I write this? And you have to like double check it. It's like, I need to do this more. It is worth it,
So is that, you get your like songwriting in when you're doing that?
Yeah. Songwriting is, I think it's kind of like scrapbooking, like you're walking down the road and you pick up leaves and twigs. And that's like that. You have that assemblage of things. And then they'll sometimes be more obvious to you. Like it'll look very sculpture-esque. You can kind of see the kind of creature you're creating. Or sometimes it's like you have to kind of put your the hammer to the anvil and kind of craft a little Frankenstein creation on its own right. Songwriting's more like fishing than hunting. It's like you have to set the conditions right. Well, I guess hunting's like that too. But I guess the point is you have to set the conditions right and wait for it to kind of occur. You can't necessarily be like, I'm writing a song now, it's going to be done, huzzah, like that. You're going to get shit doing that. That's very that'd be a very adolescent way to go about things. And then because the songs are kind of like, it's almost like they're already out there and you got to still catch them like fireflies in a jar.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a guy named Zach Smallman that came on the podcast a while back. He's an excellent musician. Dude, the music these guys are creating, Smallman and Sparks is what they go by.
Oh, wow.
But it's amazing what they're doing. We were talking about the songwriting process that he goes through. And he says basically Sparks will make a beat or the beat, and he'll hum along with it for the melody. And he says after he hums the melody in, then he goes back and he fills in the words, because it's almost like you said, the songs are out there. So he's like pulling the words in that melody, humming it, and then he's going back in and just filling in the slots.
Wow, that's really, that's all. I know there's a fellow I know in the band Traffic that they used to do is like he'd have like the song almost like his poetic verse pre-written, and then they jam for hours until he heard something that fit perfectly to the song. And that's there's so many ways to do it, but that's really interesting.
Well, yeah, the entire creative process is dope. Doing anything really, like writing scripts. We produce some films and stuff. So so doing that, I love just showing up on set and making something out of nothing.
That is the biggest thrill, especially when pressure is applied. Like it's my first few gigs with the Last Words group that I've been playing with. I remember we had a gig and the pressure was on, and to create songs, and I had a few that I was really I was interested in that we kind of created, and I got the melodies right, but the lyrics were kind of like half written. And when I got to the gig, I just had to kind of like hope and pray. It's like the first one, like there's more quality control now than there was then. But I got to this point where like I'd sit down, we started performing the songs, and I would have to I was just like, I improvised the lyrics to half the songs. And in doing that, I was like, because I create like the latter half of it. Like
At the gig, you were doing this?
Yeah, like in the moment, because it's just like the first group, because it was kind of created on a whim. Like my buddy's like, hey, we don't like, I was trying to get a band together. I've been really wanting one for a while. And it was just like, oh, we have this show, it's this weekend. Can you do it? Yeah. And so we arrived there and we have half, all the songs are like half composed, and I have to kind of like babble out the other half, and went back and I listened to the recordings. I'm like, some of those lines aren't near perfect because they're improvised, but like some ideas came out of those moments I would have never gotten in like the calmness of sitting and writing. And it's like when pressures apply, when you have deadlines and you have issues, or you have to do those things in that moment and pull something from nothing, that's when brilliance happens. But you don't get that without like having to do that.
Right. And I think the more you do it, the stronger you get, the better you get at doing it. Yeah, I take it like life is kind of like, for me, is like going to the gym. Mm. Like the more I apply stress to my body or my mind, the stronger it grows.
For sure. I mean, it's like there's like a muscle up there or something that's or memory bank, like we were saying that. The more you do that, I mean, I found myself getting good at that, especially like, when our band will do that as an exercise. Sometimes, I'll have a microphone in front of me and we'll find a riff and I'll just kind of start singing something. And it's funny what you, because everything you expose yourself to as well, is going to find its way into your brain. Even if it's like intentional or in some kind of Freudian subconscious, it's going to come out. And, because like I just start singing and then I'll find a mix of blues lyrics in there and maybe what I ate earlier, and then everything leaves a lingering kind of taste in your mouth.
Yeah, and at least you're moving. Like I say that I have a friend who also they started a band a while back, and I've asked them several times, like, do you guys want to come here and perform? And she's always like, we're not ready yet. And I'm like, you're never gonna be ready, but you got to start moving. You got to start doing things, because that's also, like you're saying, it's gonna make you apply the pressure.
You have to take that leap. Because like I was in that same place, just like waiting and like sitting around and like half writing things. Like it's hard to sit and like when you have a band and you have the pitch, like, oh wow, I'm gonna write a song and people are going to come over and ask me what it is and want to perform it, and I call them bandmates and friends. That's so cool. When you're alone and it's like I could do this instead of watching Netflix. There's no motivation there, but like you have to, like, you can't wait for the spark. You have to go find your flint and steel. You have to go do it. And so that I ran into that same issue. Yeah. Like I think probably the past, like
what changed?
I started going to jams enough, and literally I was like the Phil Brady's jam in Baton Rouge, and the guy who runs it came to me and said, hey, do you want, just like I said, like, do you want a gig this weekend? I was like, oh God, I need to. Yeah, sure. And then I was like, oh, I got to do something now. Mm-hmm. And so it came out of just strict necessity. And I fell into it, like, thank God, and I'm really happy with what's going on now. Like you said, like the performance it's fun. I feel it feels fulfilling, and it's what I've wanted. It's crazy. That whole process too of finding like that individuality of, well, that also comes from that same kind of pressure. Cause like at first you want to be all your heroes too. Like in my mind, like my people that I love, like I love Jack White, Tom Waits, Captain Beefheart, all these kind of like psychos, and you find, and you start out wanting to emulate them. And, and when you're performing yourself, you're practicing in your bedroom or something, your guitar, you're trying to make yourself them. And you're always going to be this like kind of like product that is kind of a parallel line of this character. But the second you step out and you're doing your own thing, like you're not going to respond to stimuli the same way those guys do. And that's when you start forging this own creature that's yourself and your own performance. Cause that's, I like one of the things I do in a performance, cause it goes along with the character of the soldier, I suppose, is I like to go and I take my guitar and I'll kind of move into the audience a little bit. And one of my favorite things to do is the people who are casually standing their beer, kind of maybe looking at the paint in the ceiling. Mm-hmm. I'll lunge at them really quickly and back off. And then like, sometimes they'll jump, spill a little alcohol, and it makes me laugh. I think it's hilarious. And I really like, you don't sit there, no psychopaths in the room. There's like, you know what? I'm going to go lunge at people for this gig. Like, no, I just found that out in person. People think that's great. And people get in the, it's so cool to be in a mosh pit to the music you're currently playing. And I never realized that would be a thing until
that would be dope. Playing.
Yeah. And I did it yesterday, I started, and you got to be careful. It takes a little bit more care because I literally have an instrument in my hand, right. It helps to angle it down. I've learned.
Well, and if you're in a mosh pit, they're not going to hurt you because you're playing the music.
Yeah, it would be self-deprecating. It would, you can't, you won't mosh no more.
Let me talk about my mosh pit theory.
Yeah, what's your mosh pit theory?
Are you familiar with cymatics?
No.
Okay, so cymatics are where they take a metal plate and they put sand on it and they put musical vibrations through it and it makes patterns. They're called cymatic patterns.
Wow, okay.
Okay. So depending on the frequency they put into the metal plate, the sand will go in different patterns.
Interesting.
Okay. So if you take that and scale it up and you look at humans as if they're the sand particles and the earth is the metal plate and the musician is pumping, these vibrations through the metal plate or through the earth, and it's causing humans to separate out in patterns. We just can't see that the mosh pit is actually a cymatic pattern because we're too small.
Yeah. Yeah.
You understand?
I know. I understand. I can see that too. I mean, because different band. I mean, like you can go look online at videos, different bands create different things. Like there's and there's just different styles of mosh pits. Like you have like the circles, people running around and like the waves and whatnot. And like a punk show and maybe like like a Slayer kind of ordeal or metal, they're not going to be the same thing. That's what's really cool.
Yeah. I like to do that. I like to basically take the universe or the earth as it's a fractal. I mean, the entire universe is a fractal, but if we take the smallest parts of the universe that we can like see and study, and then we scale those up into like larger forms, I think that we can learn a lot about the planet.
Wow. Yeah. That makes sense. I mean, like there's patterns in everything. I think we are just patterns. We're just
pattern recognition machines, baby.
Yeah. We're an engine just firing off all the time.
So, tough question time.
Oh God.
I know we were talking about you stopped drinking for a while.
Yeah.
So I'm hungover today. So this is why I want to touch on this. Like what made you make the choice?
Well, I didn't drink for the longest time because I grew up in the kind of Christianized atmosphere, and not there's anything wrong with that, but my mother didn't want to drink, and I was like, I like my mom all right, so I was like, I won't drink. It's kind of that's cool. She's a nice lady, and I didn't drink for the longest time, and then one day I did, and I was like, oh, this is why people do this.
Right,
this is quite wonderful.
Yeah.
And so then my friends automatically realized like, oh, he's no longer a Puritan. So and like when you're, it's so funny. Like if this doesn't happen with good decisions, but with a bad one, it's like if you start drinking or you start doing a thing that is like maybe not in excess very good, but all your friends are doing it, they all of a sudden want to bring you on every single adventure. They want you to be a part of this revelry. And so that's what had happened. I'd start going to bars on the weekends and found like, I was like, man, I've been drinking every day this past week. It's like, I'm thinking it was March and it's April. I'm like, oh shit, what? Like a whole month burned up. I barely knew. I'm kind of like high functioning. Like I'm like, I'm gonna make I guess the whole C's make degrees kind of thing. But I'm like, that's not a way to live. And so I cut it off. And then I found one thing that really helps you with the regulation is you start playing a lot more blues and hanging out in a lot of boomer bars of sorts, places where they're playing old rock and roll, and those guys don't have the ability to drink like they used to. So that's what kind of helped me as I kind of started just picking up the sauce again when I saw these the guy drinks 2 beers and he's already licking flies off the bar, and I'm like, yeah, that's good. I guess that'll be. I'll hang up my coat and call it a night. So I found the ability to regulate.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think everything in life, you got to be able to regulate. All these things, drugs, drink, whatever it is, even food. Like it's all drugs. It's all just like stimulating your body in a certain way. So with everything, you have to be able to do it in moderation.
You could be addicted to anything.
Yeah.
You could be a stamp collector and so involved in finding a certain James Madison print that, all of a sudden your wife and kids left you.
I was just thinking about licking. Like maybe that stuff does something to your head too.
That could. I mean, that's a Seinfeld episode about. No,
is it?
That's an envelope and it kills George's wife.
What the fuck?
Yeah,
really?
Yeah. It's a cheap wedding envelope that they, because he skimps out on it because it's the cheapest one, and that's the kind of the humor of the whole show. And the glue kills her. I hear they actually did that because the actor was so abhorrent to work with.
Yeah.
Like they just made a split-second decision. The writers are like, what if we just killed her?
Yeah.
Let's move on.
No, it's something you got to deal with. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. I guess if you lick stamp glue. I wonder what it'd do. I wonder if there's like, is there a high we haven't found? Because, you think about like the 50s and 60s with LSD being discovered. Like that was like, I know the fellow who's doing it, he just realized through touch, because you can still absorb some of that through touch. And that's where he started finding this experiment, started playing with it. And that's like a a high we'd never found before, because people with opium had been found for ages, and marijuana and whatnot. That's old news.
Yeah.
But like the 20th century, we found so many like new drugs. I wonder what's the next. Is it going to be found in envelope glue? Like what is, like if we, if I like licking the paint off the walls, is that the new high? Is that how we find the new god?
I mean, what is getting high though? You know,
I suppose, as you can just say, I'm high right now. I don't usually get on podcasts, and so I guess this is a unique experience. It's probably tapping the parts of my brain that aren't usually firing. So I guess I'm high in a way right now.
Yeah, that's why kids are so like wiry. They're always fucking high.
Yeah,
I think high is just learning. Anytime you experience something new, you're getting high essentially.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, that's like that. You're literally making new neural connections. Like there's like little paths being etched. And that's why like when you practice guitar and stuff, like they always tell you like practice it right and slow, because the brain will, like if you practice fast and wrong, it will build those neural pathways, except it'll be chaotic and like you have to break habits and stuff. So it's like, that's why it's so important. But yeah, that's interesting.
Yes. What, yeah. So, I mean, DMT's a thing, right?
Yeah. That's all I've heard. I've had a couple of friends. I've never really experimented with psychedelics at all.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh, man.
I know the shirt would say otherwise.
Dude, I love psychedelics.
Yeah. I've pondered going into the mushroom world.
Mushrooms are my jam. LSD, not a big fan. It's like my body knows something about it. It's like, this is not natural. But when I take mushrooms, it's like, okay, we can do this.
So I've seen two kind of reactions to mushrooms. I've tripped at a couple people, because I think a good thing to do is like when you're pondering to do something is to watch other people experience it. Just kind of learn most you can before you step into that room. Mm-hmm. So I've tripped at a couple people, and what I've learned, especially from the conversations afterwards, there's two kind of experiences. I have some that are just kind of like, whoa, the walls moved and this music sounds good. And there's some people that truly like take something away from it and like almost have like not to sound too hippie trippy, but like enlightened like mindset when they leave. And what are your experiences? Not to flip the interview, play the Uno reverse.
I love talking about mushrooms. So whenever I took mushrooms, I went into a dark room.
Ooh.
And I dark room tripped.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't take mushrooms around other humans. Because anything you're around when you take these mushrooms, the energy around you affects how you're going to feel and how your trip's going to go. So when I started taking them, I was taking them in almost like a therapeutic way, where I would go into a dark room and I would go inside of myself. Because whenever these people are seeing or listening to the music and they're seeing like the vivid, colors on the walls and stuff, they're taking in the external stimulus, which makes it more vibrant, right? Because it basically takes the filters out of your brain. So there's no filters. So you're seeing everything the way it truly is. But if you do it in a dark room, your body's looking for that stimulus, that external stimulus, but there's nothing there. So what you do is you go inside of yourself and you actually create the light inside. Oh, wow. So you should start like, I guess, delving into your own thoughts and like past and histories and whatnot. Yeah. And that's where you get enlightened. Ah, okay. So like you don't have, because what my buddy did, the one I said that kind of just thought he was watching SNL while he was taking it. He said he thought I was trying to fuck with him. He's like, why would you put this why would you put this show on with the guy with the wiggly shirt? That's fucking with me. And I think it's just Will Ferrell wearing a button down. Like it's not great, but that's interesting. Cause like I bet hallucinations are fun and all, but like that, I'm more interested in the afterglow I hear people get and like the alleviating. Changed my life, dude. Wow. Changed my life. And I microdose now. Okay. Like, what's the difference? So when you're going into like these trips, and when I say trips, I don't mean I took like a hero's dose or anything, like 5 grams of mushrooms. That's just fucking nuts. Mm-hmm. I mean, I took like maybe a stem and a cap. Yeah. Or like 2 mushrooms at a time. And that's all you really need. You don't need to go in like super heavy. Like that's when people get fucking terrified. Yeah. But, shit, what'd you just ask me? I said, what's the difference? Microdose and microdose, it just like, it keeps the psilocybin in your system, which just makes you like, it makes everything okay. Wow. Yeah. Like, I mean, I move through life now and I have no anxiety or anything. Life is just good. That's wild. And I noticed it. So I haven't taken mushrooms now. Like I take times where I'm off. I usually do like every other day, but I haven't taken them now in probably a month and a half or 2 months. And I noticed that I've been going out and doing this more. Yeah. So that's something else that helps regulate. It's like, it just, cause I think that a lot of times when we're going out drinking, we're trying to, what's the way to put this? We're trying to fill a void.
Yeah.
Like there's something inside of us that we're trying to self-medicate. Mm-hmm. So we go out and we drink or we go smoke weed. But whenever I take the mushrooms, it's kind of like, just a little microdose every day. You can't even feel it. You can't even feel it, but it's just like in your system. But I don't go out and drink. I don't smoke. I just I live life. That's
good. That kind of goes back to like the carrying on the notepad is like, I think we all have that like intrinsic longing for something. And then we also have this other like, survival instinct of let's do that in a cheap and fast way. And that's why I've had to like put the phone down and carry a notepad or like any of that. Just anything you can do to like hamper yourself from cheap and easy fixes. I think that's where we get like fulfillment from. And so it's cool that allows you to like distance yourself from those cheap and easy methods.
Yeah, dude, I stay in like and it sounds bad to say.
Okay.
But I fucking stay in rage mode all the time.
Awesome.
Yeah. I know it's crazy, but like it's terrifying when I talk about these things because people are like, this fucking guy is always in rage mode. And I'm like, I really am. But when I take the mushrooms, I'm calm.
That's cool. So what's rage mode? I must ask.
I just walk around and think about how I can just murder everyone.
Oh, wow. Okay. So like I just kind of imagine like carrying like a hammer and just breaking delicate things.
Yeah. Like we were at the bar the other night and I was chatting with this girl, cool chick. I really like her a lot. But I told her, I was like, you know what? I bet that if I just grabbed your arm and did this, I could just snap it. Like those are the thoughts that go through my head all the time.
Dude, that's staring into the French call it staring into the void. The kind of idea when you're driving a car by pedestrians, you're like, I could change everyone's trajectory so much by just just veering into pedestrian traffic. It's horrible. Disclaimer, I don't, have an urge I'm going to indulge in which, murder lots of pedestrians, but it is a thought. I think we all have those thoughts.
Yeah. I think them all the time, dude. It's bad. But I think it's Jordan Peterson that has the quote about something about young men should learn know that there's a monster inside of them, but then learn how to control it. They should know how destructive they can be, but learn how to control themselves.
Yeah, you should. I think that lost and found experience is very important. As long as you stay out of jail or in jail briefly.
I think jail would be a nice break.
Honestly, it seems kind of cool. They feed you and you can kind of, you're on a nice little schedule as long as it's not long. Like what crime could I get in jail for like a month for?
Well, I'm a huge fan of meditation.
Yeah.
So I think that if I went in, I wonder if I can request solitaire. I think solitary confinement would be great for me.
Oh, really? I hear it breeds insanity and contempt. What do you think would be?
I feel like I'm insane all the time.
I already have these. You're in rage mode. That's right.
I know. If you just lock me in a room and let me meditate for like 24 hours a day.
It's like how some people say that like caffeine, you meet those guys like, oh, caffeine makes me tired actually. I'm like, yeah, sure. But but like that, it's like, it's the reversed effect. You come out of solitary, you're like, guys, thanks for that.
Yeah.
I feel so, and like the officers, like like batons, or like looking at you fiercely and like, dude, like, and you like kind of caress their shoulder, like brother, thank you, brother. Dude, that sounds kind of nice. Is there like what? Like, were you okay if like before I leave, I abscond with something and you call the police? Like, I'll take that little ship behind you and you just call the cop. I can just go to jail for him. That really mean a lot to me.
Yeah, I'll be like, he stole something.
Yeah, and I'll be like, and I'll admit I'll just have that, and like it'd be undeniable that ship's there. It's on footage. Like, hello, I will be stealing that later if you can see it. Yeah,
Dude, there's no telling how much shit gets stolen in this bar. For being honest, there's so many things, little things in this bar that anyone could just walk in here and walk out with something.
Dude, musicians are the worst too. Like, I've been to gigs where like everyone's equipment's kind of in one area, and all of a sudden it just becomes like pigs going to the trough. Like, people start taking equipment, and then you'll notice someone's taking someone's pedals, and then another guy reaches like into another room, like, oh my god, just take something and run. God, run. And it's like, it just becomes this like feeding frenzy, like piranhas. And the musicians will abscond with microphones. They'll take arts. There's just like, and I think that's maybe it's just not musicians, artsy people, they're more prone to quote quirks. I mean, that's a common trope, but like, there's more like, you don't hear the term kleptomaniac enough. And I think there's more of those than you think. Like I've got hanging around kind of the Baton Rouge's music community. There's been a few folks I've had to vet because you notice that like, it's never dull things. It's always shiny. It's like crows. You'll find your Zippos missing. You'll find, I collect old knives. I'll find those missing. I'm just like, and you go over their house, you're like, because you think your girlfriends, you go to their house, eventually you're like, this it's not yours. And like, it's like, yeah, it's like, it's my name. It's like,
they
fucking want it.
They don't even deny it. They don't even like it. They're just like, no, that's not yours. It's mine.
Yeah. They try, or the best method, honestly, I act like I confront them. Typically, you just wait for them to get drunk, and then you re-abscond it.
Yeah.
And maybe even you feel cutesy, you make a little game out of it, you take something of theirs, and then it's just kind of like a community game.
We just keep stealing from each other.
Yeah.
And it keeps escalating. And one day I take his wife, and then,
I'm an enabler. If there's something you're trying to quit, I'm going to give it to you. You know, it's just someone I like to allow these things to happen.
We've been lucky around here. We work off of the trust method.
The worst method.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we haven't had any, knock on wood. No one's stole anything yet.
I'm kidding.
No, it's nice. The people that come in here, they and you guys, they really respect the space. It's kind of nice.
Mm-hmm. No, it is cool. And I think that is the nature of it, because, you know, no one has to let you perform anywhere, you know. Well, actually, New Orleans has got some cool laws. At least, especially Baton Rouge. If I go somewhere and I set up on the street and start playing, like any cop might just for fun because they're bored, just like shoo me off.
Yeah,
New Orleans is cooler about it. You can sit up on the street. If you're in a decibel level, they'll be like, they legally have to let you perform in front of their store. It's kind of badass.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There's if you have the license and you were within a decibel range,
the license though,
you have to have a license.
Yeah,
I think that is part of it. But like, I mean, that's it. And that's like a one-time thing. Like,
see, we're technically supposed to have a license, do what we do.
Oh my God, I got to go.
Well, not the podcast, but like the performances.
Oh, that's cool.
Because we don't get it.
Oh,
yeah. You're supposed to have a license to have like live amplified music in your space. But I'm more of a fan of asking for forgiveness.
Yes.
So this part of the podcast needs to be cut out because now it's on camera. But you know, who gives a shit?
The admission of guilt. Well, you might get your solitary confinement now.
Oh, dude, yes. Arrest me. No, I think it's crazy that you have to have a permit of any kind to perform.
Yeah.
That blows my fucking mind. That's why whenever I love to like, my thing with performing is if you want to come perform, you should perform.
Yeah. It's already hard enough to make noise in this world, but to get a permit to make noise, to rabble rouse, it's like getting a permit to break the law. That's like, it's kind of ridiculous. So that's why I say, like, I think that's why people respect the space. Cause it's like, you know, they won't come back if they abscond with your ship or whatever. It's, that's a culture. And I think everyone who's in the scene, hopefully, wants to help foster a culture in which we can, like, you know, make that petri dish that grows cool new things. You know?
Yeah.
How else will we find penicillin?
I love like mixing around with other artists. That's been the coolest thing for me working here is getting to meet so many cool fucking people.
Yeah.
Like we're right now we're working with comedians because we do open mic comedy on Tuesdays, which one of the comedians, the reason we started this podcast is because one of the comedians, I was like, yo, dude, let's start a podcast. And he's like, okay, I'll start a podcast. And so we came in here and we started his, it's called Pickle's House. So shouts out Pickle, but he got picked up by a fucking studio.
Whoa.
So they moved him out to a studio and now his podcast is in a studio and he's brought some of his other comedians with him out there. And so that's freaking dope that he actually got that grew. But I mean, that grew out of this place right here. And so now we're working with the comedians again. They're writing little scripts like skits, and we're going to start filming those to try to like throw those on a YouTube channel and try to blow some of those guys up.
That's fantastic. And that really is like the beauty of media and like all this. Cause it's like, you know, it is not foolish to cling to those said dreams because that stuff can happen. You never know. And like, and it also has to do with, like you said, you just tried something like frequency. Like the more you do something, more ballots you're casting, more lottery tickets you purchase. That's cool that you're allowing people to come do that. Cause like, I mean, I ain't going to attract much of an audience in my house. I might invite some people. I might get a few weirdos if I just have like a bedroom concert, but not going to be as cool as this place.
Well, that's what's the biggest thing for me in doing all this stuff was learning how to edit. Cause I started out just an actor.
Yeah.
That's how I got into all this stuff. Actually a model when I started out, a model for Dillard's Clothing Company.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. But I started doing that and then I was like, how can I keep going in this long distance? Then I went to acting and then I was like, you know what? It's tough to like get gigs. So I'm going to start making my own stuff. And I learned how to edit from that. And now I have all these skills and I'm like, why don't I just use them to, help everyone else out?
Yeah.
Because every time you grow someone else, you grow yourself, you know?
Tell me about acting. Where'd you get started in that?
In Arkansas.
Okay.
Yeah. So I took a beginning acting for non-majors when I was in college because my major was in IT, but I had like a extra credit I could use. So I took that class and I was like, this is kind of fun. And I didn't do anything with it after school. You know, I got out and started working on my degree, and I was so depressed, so depressed. And I was like, fuck this, I'm out. I just quit acting, and I started like doing I went back to working in restaurants.
Yeah.
I quit acting. I quit IT.
There we go.
Yeah. I went back to working in restaurants, and someone was like, hey, can I take some pictures of you? And I'm like, sure. So they took some pictures of me, and they were trying to grow their photography business, which led into, you know, the modeling contract. So I did that. And then I was like, you know, I'm in Arkansas. There's not really a huge acting market up here, but I can learn here. So what I did was I started going to the, there's a film school in, what's the place called? Anywhere, somewhere in Central Arkansas, at UCA, University of Central Arkansas. There's a film school there, and an amazing film program. And I started going to their open auditions for their student films. And that's how I built my reel up doing that. And I met tons of freaking awesome people in that program. And they just casted me for everything, because there's not this body type. Yeah. It's hard to come by in Arkansas. So even when I sucked at acting, they were still casting me and everything, because they just wanted me to like play that character. So I was a garbage actor when I started. But I grew that skill over doing it over time. And then I met my old roommate in Arkansas when we were working on a film. And we were like, yo, let's move to New Orleans where there's some stuff going on. Here we are.
Wow, that's so cool. You took a leap there. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I always loved acting. I started when like young. I was not doing enough things, and so mother's like, you know, you can play baseball or you can go into the play. And I don't have the build for baseball, and you know, and so I was like, you know, the desire to run from base to base. So I was like, you know, I will go try the acting gambit, and I loved it, because immediately with the kind of crazy-eyed curly hair, I was cast as like always comic relief, kind of the goofball character. And I fell in love with that. And and then also at the same time, we started doing a lot of Shakespeare stuff too. They got us at my school I liked the way they handled things. I mean, I don't know, maybe it was the slightest bit psychologically damaging, but I was introduced to Macbeth at like the 6th grade. Right. And like, I remember they had me memorizing those monologues, and I was like, I love just having these things. And if not to just act, just if like, in conversation, if like you're at a bar, right? Like say we are at a bar actually. Wow. How convenient. Like we're sitting there and you're talking to someone, and like your effort to make conversation, and they're just giving you the, yeah. It's so fun when you have all those like monologues. You just look at them. You're like, tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time. All our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. Out brief candle. You know, like that's like, oh, it's such a good thing to have just locked and loaded. And but I haven't done that stuff in a while, man. I'm thinking about like wanting to get back into like there's a little improv circuit fostering an old BR, and I need to. I've got too much of that itch come back to go.
You have the personality for stage.
I appreciate that.
I don't. Like when it comes to people in musical theater, I've done 2 musical theater productions, and I wanted to murder everyone the entire time I was there. There's just so much fucking energy.
It's scary.
Yeah.
Like, they're like bees,
and they're just feeding off each other. And I'm just sitting in the corner like this. Like, when is this going to be over? And
they all have a shared repertoire, because I was not a musical theater guy starting out. I eventually got into it, but they all have like the same, like repertoire of classical theater, or maybe just like new Broadway stuff. Yeah. So you'll just be like, you think that you're like getting along with somebody and you're having a cool conversation, and all of a sudden someone across the theater will go like, out there, and they'll start, there's a world outside of Yonkers. They're just like, you're like, wait, what the hell? Where did that come from? Yeah. It just bursts out of thin air. Like, I'm not on that level yet. Like, there's something that they're grown from a different potting soil, you know?
Yeah. I'm telling you, I just sit in the corner and I waited for them to call me to stage. That was what I did. Both times I was there, I was just like, oh, I fucking hate all this.
I've been there.
And once again, I got cast for my body type again. So, I mean, it was nice to like have that experience, but I also know that I don't want to have that experience again with musical theater.
Discovery.
We did Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh, that's so fun. Who were you?
I was Rocky.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's really cool.
Yeah, it was a blast. That was one of the coolest things I've done. And we actually performed the entire thing. So I was like singing and dancing and doing all that stuff. Most time they do it like in front of a screen or something. No, we built the set and actually performed it. It was dope. That's so fun. I would actually go back and do that one again if they could pull the same crew that I had. Yeah, because they were all fucking amazing. Like, there's no reason I should be on the stage with those people.
Oh man, I get sad that you're to come to podcasts and stuff. You know what?
I'm telling you, that was the first thing I ever did.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah, that's what actually like pushed me into like the acting. I was like, I can do this,
because the amount of personality that role requires is crazy. So
it was fun.
That is fantastic that was your first experience, because like Because in the Rocky Horror 2, it's like it's so fun because it relies so much on the people, but the set when local productions is always made of staples and glue. Like people, it's so, but that adds to the charm. It's supposed to look like you made it out of your mom's living room furniture.
So that one, I did that one, and I also did Legally Blonde too.
That's awesome.
And I was Kyle in Legally Blonde too, and I was also in the ensemble dancing and stuff too. But I mean, yeah.
Yeah, that's my biggest problem. When I get back to the theater, I'm gonna have to take a dance class or two. It's I'm a double threat right now. I can sing and I can act. I don't have the coordination of the limbs. I have to work on that one. You know?
I mean, I feel like you do good whenever you're performing.
Oh, I can hop around in like a psycho for sure, like the presence and like moving to music. But then all of a sudden, where it's just like the whole 5, 6, 7, 8
the choreography part.
It's like I'm a deer in the headlights, and I can do it. Like I'm not saying I don't have the ability. I have to it just takes more practice and everything to get there. You know?
I didn't like the choreography aspect. It was that's another reason. Like, so I have a personality for film, obviously. Like when they 100%. Say action, I turn it on, and then they say cut, and I turn it off.
That's great. Yeah.
And I think meditation helps with that too, because you got to have emotional control to do these kinds of things. Because I've played some parts where they kind of bled into who I was.
Yeah.
And they were, I don't know, I guess it can get kind of dangerous.
That is dangerous. Have you watched Breaking Bad? Yeah. I know, Bryan Cranston always talked about that scene where, spoiler alert, I suppose, where Jane dies and Cranston's character, Walter, watches. And he said that that was a moment where he crossed that line because he was watching it so intensely. And he said all of a sudden he imagined his own daughter dying there. And he had a panic afterwards. He had to go. So he went and threw up in the parking lot. And myself, I haven't had that most of an extreme reaction to it. But there's these moments when you're on stage that are really bizarre, where usually you're trying to get to a place where you're believing what you're saying and who you are. But every once in a while, you'll be saying something, and then you have this kind of existential moment when you realize that you're not this character and you're you. And you never realize you've gotten there until you step out of it. And you're like, oh God, I'm me, I'm on a stage. And you glance too far to the left and you saw the audience. You're like, oh, whoa, I'm not a Scotsman. I'm not a walking and talking Yorkshireman. That's just it's such a bizarre thing because it really is the ability to transport yourself into the world. I guess that's every performance too. That's what I want to do on stage when I perform. I want people to get, a little suspension of disbelief. I want them to be a little afraid when I'm performing. Yeah,
it's acting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You want to be believable. Mm-hmm. One of the craziest experiences I had was my dad crying. So I did this film, and in the film I committed suicide.
Oh yeah.
And he
oh shit.
He thought, he was like, my son just killed himself. It was that real for him. But it was just me acting on camera. I'm sitting beside him in the fucking theater watching the film, and he's over there crying, tearing up.
Damn. Oh, well.
But
he hasn't talked since.
Yeah.
He communicates with a little clicker. Yeah.
No, that, some of the films I've done though, I've played a guy beating a woman.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. A new kink unlocked. I'm just kidding.
Oh my God. And I loved it. They could. Loved it. Maybe I will drive into that crowd of pedestrians.
No, that was kind of damaging for me. But it's also therapeutic. So in that film, I played this guy who's an alcoholic, and the woman that was playing my wife that I was beating was a really good friend of mine. And she was also an incredible actor. She still is. She's not dead yet.
Oh, good.
But no, it was. So in that film, I'm just boohoo crying, snot's running out of my nose after I beat my wife, and she's trying to leave me or whatever. And it's crazy to reach that level on camera, with other people standing around watching you.
Yeah.
We live in a society where they tell you not to cry as a man and stuff. Mm-hmm. But if you put yourself in that situation, you're like, this is how this guy would react here.
Yeah.
If his wife is leaving him, he would be like this. And then everyone around you, it's so funny to be that person, and then all these people around you are so uncomfortable. Yeah. Because you're just snot running out of your nose, crying, just fucking, and they're all just oh, this is kind of weird.
Yeah, they feel like voyeurs.
Yeah.
Watching you go through your emotions.
That's how you know you're a good actor though. When everyone around you is so fucking uncomfortable.
Yeah, no, honestly, yeah. When you can, because what you did in that moment is you communicated that feeling to them, and that's that is good art too. Because we all want to have experience. Usually those exist within our comfort zone. The good shit like it subjects us to stuff. We're on a roller coaster. Like you ain't getting off. You have to feel that weird pull in your gut. You know, that's what's so fun. Cause like, I bet you those people, even though they were super uncomfortable, would come back for more. Like,
they were loving
little
it. Little
masochists.
They were loving
it. They want like, let's feel that awkward feeling. Let's watch him cry. Let's watch him cry.
Let's watch this man cry. I bet people would really like today. A big white man crying.
Yeah, I mean, you could honestly just sell that. That could be a street performance. I'd like an old 1800s thing of a criers. Like, come watch the man. Like, come watch this fella cry, and then like it's like a nice little tent, and they draw a curtain, and you're just sitting there sobbing, and then they put pennies in the hat.
Oh, bro, we're starting an OnlyFans, and it's just gonna be me crying.
And I'll just be sitting here like encouraging. Yes, continue. Very good.
John.
I mean, I'm in a suit. You're in a wife beater and jean shorts.
Just crying. Oh.
Yeah. Yes, continue.
Come subscribe to my OnlyFans.
Fantastic. $5 a month.
Oh, dude. So did you bring me some music today? Did you get some recorded last night?
I got some recorded with at the show we played. I set my phone on the bass amp and it's quite muddled.
No, it's okay. When are you going to record some, dude?
Because like I can get some this week. I'm gonna
really
group over. Yeah, I'm gonna have we're going to practice every week. I'll just set up like we just got like a nice mic, so I'll set up in the corner and just even if it's a little rough, you'll have a garage rock recording. So
I love it, dude. So what I want to do is I want to put some of your music at the end of the podcast.
Perfect.
Or I might like scatter it throughout too. Whenever I cut out that part about I don't know eating people or something.
Yeah, that's probably good.
Yeah. Now we'll throw some music in here though, so people can actually hear your sound.
I'd love that. I'm really proud of the sound we produce. It's somewhere between like kind of like Primus, White Stripes, Waits, Beefheart. I guess if they hear it, I don't need to describe it, but like it's an energy I didn't expect to find when I set out. Cause I kind of set out, I was coming from that blues shuffle, kind of stuff. And it's like, oh, I guess that's what I'm going to do. Nope. Nothing. I mean, it's fast. It only borders on metal. I never thought of myself as a kind of like a hardcore kind of player, but like it can come out that way at times.
Yeah. I could see that.
Yeah.
So you said you grew up in a Christian household.
Yes, very much so. Well, Christian household, I suppose it was strange. So I think I can break it down. We got time. We got time. So you got mom and dad. Dad comes from a very science-based, not like they're Catholic. In my great grandparents' generation, my grandfather comes along. He's like, we ain't doing that shit anymore. He's like, I don't, not say Catholicism shit. That's what he said. My grandfather was a brilliant man, PhD in math, had 8 degrees. He had he was a scientist for the Saturn V rocket. He helped man get to the moon. He was
the one that came along and said, no, we're not doing this.
Yeah. He was really proud of that side of things. He thought that the religion was stupid. So he said no, we ain't doing that. So that translated my dad. My dad's just kind of like not necessarily atheistic, but he was indifferent. Mm-hmm. So then there's my mom. My mom's raised in Birmingham Baptist culture in the 60s and 70s, very, very like religious. Then she finds punk rock, falls in love with the Sex Pistols, shaves half her head, puts safety pins through her cheeks, but then has this after going down maybe a couple more bad decisions than she'd care to, finds herself into a she becomes like really Baptist again. But not to the point, but then find my dad's like kind of buys into it too. He's like, oh, this actually sounds kind of cool. Kind of likes the Christian side of things.
Was it after they had you?
This was before, and then they have me. And so we had this weird growing up thing where it's like, I was very subjected to the name Jesus and the idea of Christ, but I didn't find myself being actually read the Bible all too much. And we went to church occasionally, but the idea of God was always told to me. Then the parents split up, and it was weird enough. I'm with my dad most of the time. He actually went more hardcore. It was really bizarre. He was always the indifferent one. And he's like, actually like, no, that's kind of became his rock, which was healthy for a while, but became a tad overbearing. I'm like, most people's story with the whole Christian thing was like, we were hardcore fundamentalists. I could only wear pants, no shorts ever, kind of story. Mm-hmm. We couldn't dance in my town. And then they break free and it's like, fuck religion, fuck
Footloose, right?
Yeah. You've seen it. Damn it. Yeah. I use my every conversational opener. I just pray no one's seen Footloose. No, I'm dastardly. Plans are ruined.
Isn't that fucking weird though, that people don't dance and shit? Like, what is that about?
Yeah, no, that's true. It's, I remember because I went to a Baptist school when I was younger, and at school dances, it was called you were supposed to like, feel the rhythms or something. They never used the word dance. I forget what they explicitly said, but they never
feel the rhythms.
Yeah, you're supposed to like rhythmically move. You're not supposed to dance. You can't talk about that.
I don't even understand.
I didn't either. We danced. I mean, I don't know what
That's
they
dance,
expect.
isn't
Yeah,
it?
it is. And that's what it boils down to. So much of it becomes just call and response. You have to say what we say. And, and I think that's a lot of people's issues. I'm not like I wouldn't say like I broke away from Christianity. I find this kind of I feel like I'm in the in-between world right now. I'm not saying I'm disavowing anything, but I'm also trying to figure out who John is. And that kind of process, like I will read the Bible. Like I find it interesting, endearing, especially from the stories are intricate and a lot of them are very beautiful. Like I was reading from Kings and Elijah talks about hearing the whisper of God, which is not in contrast to the thunderous rumblings of the earth. Like he is the slow breeze of wind. I'm like, that's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Very poetic.
And then there's also parts of it you have to contend with, like in the Leviticus, you don't eat the animals that scurry about the ground. You're like, I don't know what this is about, which, you as you dig more, you find like the difference between like Jewish law and like new covenant, old covenant stuff. And that's all that. But it's like, there's more confusing things is the point. And it's like, it's definitely more something to unpack. So I guess that's more my phase. It's like, I'm in this place where I need to unravel this for myself and figure out what I believe. And maybe next podcast, I'll let you know what that is. So, I'm in that process.
I hope that you find it. Cause like I haven't found it yet. Like I'm still unraveling mysteries. And one of the cool things about the Bible that I've seen and is with the gematria thing again, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you take the old Hebrew version of Genesis, the story of Genesis, and you take the numerical value of Genesis, you can pull out you can actually find sacred geometries in the book of Genesis.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right.
What's sacred geometries? What would that?
Okay. So like once again, don't drink alcohol, kids. It's bad for your brain. What are they called? There's a you know what a torus field is? No? Okay. A torus field is like a donut shape, right?
Okay.
Okay. It's like a magnetic field. So if you take the inside of the torus field, you can pull out a sacred geometry, which is like a structure. And this is like the fundamental structure of our reality. It's like everything that you are, everything that is in this room, all this stuff is just energy, right? But it's energy moving at different frequencies, different speeds. Yeah. Okay. But if you get down to the most fundamental level that you can see of this energy, you can pull out these sacred geometries. And that is fundamentally what is in Genesis.
Oh, interesting. So it's almost like the geometries found at like at most basic levels, the building blocks.
Yes. So the story of creation in the Bible is actually what's the fundamental level. That's fantastic. That's super. And then is that in the Hebrew or in the English? Hebrew. In the Hebrew. Wow. Okay. Yeah. It all works because that's basically like, that's where it all started essentially. Like, so those numbers that are in there, it doesn't really work in our language because our language is kind of convoluted. It is very convoluted. Yes. It's like 8 different languages. I mean, it's cool. It's cool to like have this language. And in all the stuff that I've done, gematria, I use the English language because my theory is that even if I use, or I could go back and use the actual numbers that they use in the Hebrew to work it out. But I think that if I use the 1 through 26, that it's still going to give me the same patterns. Yeah. Yeah. Patterns will emerge out of my experiments too. It'll just be a little different and a little bit distorted. Do you think that comes from like maybe just like a higher power kind of guiding force, or you think maybe just like an inherent natural order to things? Excellent question, sir. Thank you. So another one of the experiments that I've been doing for a while now. Oh, wonderful. Is every time I see consecutive numbers, 11, 11, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, I'll screenshot it on my phone. Because if you start thinking about like different dimensions, okay, time is the 4th dimension. Yeah. Okay. So the next dimension up, 5th dimension, is just pure energy and it's above time. So if there was a 5th dimensional entity that wanted to communicate with you, the best way for them to communicate is through time because time doesn't exist for them. So if I look at my phone and see these consecutive numbers at a certain time and screenshot it, if I graph those out and look at the waveform of what that is, there could be a message there. That's really cool. Yeah. And that could be one of the gods or God communicating with you through time. See, I was, when you get, I don't know if this is based in the Bible or this is kind of just like the Pentecostal /
like Baptist, New Age kind of stuff that like my mom was kind of into, but like I always have like a fasting with 3 and 7, number of completions, and the 3 being like Trinity kind of stuff. I think that's where that comes from.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also John Wiese the third, so the 3 is personal, but I sign on every signature, and I love finding those numbers, and that's something interesting for me too. I think I find comfort, and I will believe things more if they involve the numbers 3 or 7. So yeah, I don't think that's ridiculous. I think that I think some people like to shy away from a lot of people are too quick to like, we don't know anything. I mean, like, why am I here? Like, that's anything's plausible. I think that going down any rabbit hole could be worth it, because at the end of the day, you're going to find out something about yourself.
Yes. I even hate when people are like, oh, the experts say this. It's like the fucking experts don't know either.
He's one brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's an expert because he studied this. Okay. But has he connected dots from other things? This is where I come with religion. My thoughts on religion, and it's more along the lines of your grandpa.
Okay.
But I see it from also the religious perspective. So I think that some people can go down a scientific rabbit hole where they're like, this is right. This is it. It was structured life. There's no such thing as belief, all this other stuff. But it's like, no, if you actually dive into like all these different areas and not just go scientifically or just go religiously, you can see there's patterns in all these things that actually connect. So religion actually ties in with science if you go deep enough.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So I think that for anyone to go, this is not, we don't believe in this because it's not real. It's like, well, it is real. You just haven't dove deep enough into it yet, or you're so logically brained that you can't see the creative side of life. Yeah,
there is I know in things that we think are fundamental do get disproven all the time. I mean, I know recently with the James Webb telescope, the NASA, they were taking some photos because the way light transmits, it takes so much time to travel. Like, the stars you look at night, that light that left that star approximately, in general, the average distance that we can see around 1,500. So that star might not even be there. But as a result, we can look back in time because that light's still traveling. And we've been observing galaxies that are billions of years, like 20 billion years old. Like how old we think the universe is, that number might be wrong, but something like that. And upon further analysis with this more high definition telescope and a camera that we're able to use, they look a lot younger than we expected, thinking that the universe might be profoundly older than we've thought. And we've believed wholeheartedly for a hot minute now. I know a hot minute for modern astronomical evaluations is more like the 70s, but still people were pretty set in stone on that, and it's being disproven right now. So we don't know anything.
No, I mean, we're discovering things all the time. They recently just discovered the Earth has another core.
Really? That's cool.
Yeah, there's another I don't know what does that actually mean for anything? Who knows? Probably nothing. But there's another core in the Earth that we used to think that it was the crust, the mantle, and the inner core. It's like, no, now there's another core inside of that.
Yeah, because we don't, we've never seen it.
No.
We just run numbers, and then you never know what you're going to find.
Well, you have to believe what all these people tell you too. You're younger than me, but when I was in school, they were telling us certain things, and they've overturned them since then.
I remember, even for me too. They used to tell us that there was areas of the tongue that corresponded to different tastes. I know that's apparently bullshit. I remember reading that. I actually remember hearing that in the 3rd and 4th grade. I remember or 5th grade. I remember getting to the 6th grade. I remember going into the class when we opened the textbook, and the teacher being like, "They just said this was wrong." So literally had us take a Sharpie and exit in our school textbook. It was really cool. It was like, wow. I think that was honestly one of the most profound learning experiences from that class. I don't really, I don't know how much you remember from your 6th grade education. I don't remember. I did remember too much.
My teachers hated me.
But I remember that was a very profound thing for me to just realize people can be in the books can be wrong. But yeah, I think I was a rather calm kid in those days. The teachers liked me. It wasn't until I got to the acting performance that I became a nuisance for them.
Yeah. Well, no, I was always calm, but I've always been a curious human.
Yeah.
So I would always, ask questions, and they a lot of times wouldn't have the answers, and some of them would get upset. Just because they had to go actually work and do their job and learn things rather than just go, memorize and regurgitate what's in the book.
Yeah. And
I've always been a very curious human being. That's why I love doing these things too, because you learn from everyone and everything.
No, absolutely. And we were talking about that. That's one of the coolest takeaways from our last conversation. When I played here about a few weeks ago, when you were saying, just like you said that you have a willingness, even in like if you fundamentally disagree with some, just hearing them out on every point. Because like even the people that seem so far from your point of view might have one little piece of info for you that you love and you can cherish, and that's like a really cool thing.
Yeah. You ever had somebody in your life come along and drop some wisdom on you, but you didn't notice it at the time?
I know that's happened to me. Tell me what you're thinking. I'm gonna ponder that.
Well, I had a guy when I was in Arkansas one time. I had to go get a ding repaired out of my window.
Yeah.
And this guy owned a glass shop, and so I go to this, and everyone in my small town knows each other, but I didn't know these people because they were older, right? Mm-hmm. So I go to this glass shop, and this guy is repairing my windshield, and he gets it done, and he comes in and he drops like just a nugget on me, and I was like, okay, and it was never live beyond your means. And I was like, why the fuck did this guy just say this to me? 16-year-old kid. Who is this fucking guy? I didn't know who he was. So cut to like 10 years later, his wife goes nuts, shoots her son in the chest, and then shoots him in the head, and then lights the entire house on fire and burns the house down, kills herself before she does it.
Wow.
And I didn't even realize at the time that this guy had said this to me, but for some reason, when that all happened, I was like, hang on a second. This guy said something to me, and that's stuck with me my entire life. And I've lived by that principle, and it's got me out of some pretty tricky jams in my life.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But just like that little nugget that guy dropped, it's like, why, where did he come from? And why did he drop this knowledge on me? And then all this other shit happened to him to exit him out of the game.
Damn. It's like he got his, he wrote you his epitaph. Damn, that's why I guess I don't know. I haven't had anything maybe that dramatic, because that is crazy.
That's a wild story. Yeah.
That is really wild. But I do remember early on hearing people tell me when I just first started performing, I was around 17 or 18, stepping out into like bars and playing jams, and they tell them, like, I remember just like this idea that people don't want to meet folk from other earthlings. They want to meet someone from Mars, and that whole then contextualizing performance was people telling me is like, when in doubt, go the other direction, or be like just profoundly different in ways that makes people look. And like, and of course within good moral standing, but most of the time. And but I've carried that with me in the sense that like when in times when I have not been able to, like, I don't know my like a performance style, I don't know how to personally analyze something, and I've been worried about it, to just always take a leap and go with like just indulge the extremes and the peculiarities of your personality, and that will guide you. That will be your guiding light. That'll be the lamp at your feet. And like that's how I, my current performance style, the whole World War I trench outfit. When I collect old war memorabilia, and that was lying around, and I had a concert, and I knew I couldn't go in t-shirt and jeans because that's just stupid. When you're performing, you gotta look like they said, like Martians. I'm like, I just grabbed something. Or I'm walking out there, like that helmet's from World War I.
It's a good look.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful. It helps me, because that's the other half of it. I know I was saying that you got to make people believe, so you also have to create a scenario in which you can believe what you're doing too. Like if I'm wearing t-shirt and jeans on the stage, because that happened for a while, and I was looking at pictures of myself, it's like, I don't believe what I'm doing.
Right.
When I go and I see the craziness and I'm in this uniform, like, it's like, I imagine a cop feels more authoritative when he puts on the uniform, puts the gun on his belt,
Stanford police experiment. Yeah,
there you go. And like, I feel like the performance loon when I get in my uniform. It also creates ritual, which is also important, because to create that mindset. I'm sure when you've done acting, you had like I know from my experience, we had dressing room warm-ups. Even like the guys had their own specific ritual. We get in a circle and we just like jump and scream chants, and that would be our hype thing.
Fucking theater kids,
dude, it's nuts. But like, I know exactly. But like that code taught me so much too. It's just like, even if you don't like this ritual per se, it's a little weird. At least when you do that, your body's like, oh, it's time to go on stage. My mind's like, oh, this is that thing we do before we have to go yell into the void, and then you do it. Yeah,
no, I get that. I'm thinking about the guy that because I guess what's the guy's name? Andrew something. He wears like all white, but it's like t-shirt and jeans.
Oh shoot,
he looks like a fucking alien. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't know.
He's like a dingy like white shirt that he wears, and like a dingy pair of white pants, and he like has this long black hair.
Oh shoot! I know Andrew WK.
Yeah.
That's exact. I know. Yep, he used to host Cartoon Network's Destroy, Build, Destroy.
Dude, I think he is an alien.
He might be.
Have you ever seen him in interviews?
No, I have not.
Oh my God, dude. He just like, I can't even act like him. Like, so if we're sitting here and you're interviewing me and he's just like,
his eyes bulge.
the whole time, he's just like, you know, in his dirty white shirt, and they ask him questions and he gives like, you know, the most alien fucking answers ever. Like those are the kinds of guys that you really want to see.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I didn't see it, but I remember he rolled through Baton Rouge once he went on a national party tour. Like he'd go to just like theaters, places of like where you'd sit and watch like orchestras, but he'd host like raves in these like really schnazzy contexts. Such a bizarre thing to do, but like, hey, I don't think he knows who he is. That's cool.
I love his music too.
I haven't listened to much of his music. What's it like?
Well, he basically says that like music is everything.
Yeah.
Like music is God, music is beautiful. That's like his whole message.
It's resonance and patterns like we were talking about before.
Yeah.
It's like frequencies. Like A is 440. You know?
Yeah. How do you feel about that stuff? Because like someone was talking about that the last time we were on the podcast. They were talking about how like instruments are tuned to like a different frequency or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was saying that because we were talking about somatic patterns again. And he was saying that the tuning that the instruments are at now creates a disharmonious pattern, whereas the 440 tuning would create a beautiful harmonic resonance pattern.
I'm not sure, like,
because aren't they tuned to like 432 or something? Or
yeah, it probably is off. I'm not quite sure about that. I know my cool fact about frequencies I always tell is that the tuning has changed over time, and that like Mozart, when he composed something, let's say in the key of A 440 in the late 1700s, late 18th century, it would be the modern A sharp. It would be that's like the key equivalent. So if when you hear Mozart you look it up on Spotify, that's actually not how he'd hear it. You probably need to raise it up a half step, which is interesting. But on what you said, I mean, I know you've probably seen the little like Indian singing bowls that you put. Yeah. I mean, frequencies do something for us. They can. And so I believe that, that would, if we had a more equal tuning or more whole numbers, I bet that would do something for us. I mean, I'm not one to doubt that. I mean, it's foolish to think otherwise, because like, music already does so much for our moods. I mean, when I hear a beat played in a certain rhythm, it may make me want to go break shit. Like music can listen. Okay. I was watching this video. This guy's analyzing this moment in the 50s. So Duke Ellington, the old big band composer, right? He was
what do these people want?
Huh? Oh, those are my
those are your guys? Okay, I was like, what are they doing?
No, they're wondering where.
Should we let them in?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, yeah. I'll let them in.
Yeah, great. And welcome to that point. Get out of the heat. Yeah, you guys can come in. Let's do it. Okay. Well, just come in whenever you get ready. Hey, Caleb. Wonderful.
What were we talking about?
We're talking about you like this. We're talking about Duke Ellington had a show where he
hey, if you want to sit down and put the headphones on, you can. Okay.
But he was he was near like the end of like his career had taken kind of a dive, and he had a saxophone player on trying to mix things up that had like a more forward thinking, what we'd come to know as like a more aggressive, like post-bop kind of style, like culture, like heading towards Coltrane, but not quite, this more aggressive saxophone style. But it was so profound, and like something today that we're so used to that we'd hear and just be like, oh, that's like cool jazz music. But it was so forward thinking and so aggressive at the time that apparently people started going wild and like ripping their clothes off and shit. Just like at a Duke Ellington show.
Oh, kind of like the Elvis Presley stuff.
Yeah,
too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We started wiggling the right way and people went mad. And that's like, to sort of say that music can't do something to us is just, that beyond disproven. We have the evidence. So I'm sure that certain frequencies can like do crazy things. One of my favorite examples of maybe just like on that note, that idea is at the end of Sgt. Pepper at the Day in the Life, when they famously had the four pianos, and they made like a really huge extended chord. It's an extended chord. So you have like C, E, G, which is like your primary C chord, because you should kind of like, C, you skip one, you get to E, skip one. But then if you keep doing that beyond and you kind of overlap it and you get like a B flat and so you get all these like interesting patterns, you can keep skip one, adding a note until you just get these really wide chords that still kind of create enough harmony to like maintain the identity of the chord, but they have these dissonant intervals that kind of create a little bit of inherent craziness.
Dude, you're so over my head right now, but I love it.
Oh,
yeah.
It's like the notes. So we respond, lower frequencies will always dominate the identity of something. Like if if you're going to hear like the lower things first. But the higher frequencies are what are more evident to us. So if you keep stacking these notes, it's still going to be a C chord, but it's going to have so many extra little diddly doops and whatnot that it'll have like more identity packed on top of it.
Okay.
And this chord they created at the end was just really extended and really wild and really full. And they also, on top of that, held the pedals down on all the pianos. And when you do that and you hold the little pedal down, that's a sustain pedal on the piano, like a piano is a resonating body, that whole chamber is creating resonance. So let's say I hold down the pedal on piano and then it removes the bar that dulls the note. So it's all going to resonate freely. And I don't hit any other note. I hit a D, middle D, D4, as hard as I can. Just boom. That note's going to resonate the most because the hammer hits it. And that's what's making but because all the notes are allowed to vibrate freely, the force of that vibration is going to make all the strings vibrate to a certain degree. So you're going to get what are called overtones, or just like the bonus points of the piano. Like the more things are resonating on top of that, to the point where if you hit that thing and you mute the D string, you're still going to hear notes. Things are kind of washy. And so they did that to all these pianos. So they all have this ability to resonate crazy. And just the sheer amount of like harmonious frequency going through your body. I've never felt more peaceful than when I hear that chord, the very peaceful, inspired, kind of just like suspended in that religious, like ecstatic shakiness than like the first few times I heard that chord. And so, yeah, I bet 440 is the, is the change to bring it all back home. I bet that is a big deal.
Oh, I love the way they used to record.
Yeah.
Where they would put all the instruments in a room and just like record that way. I think that's awesome. And the way we do it nowadays where, they break everything apart, it seems like there's just something missing there.
Oh, for sure. I require that live recordings are done. I told my group, it's like, I hate studio overdubs. I mean, they're sometimes necessary. Like you have to do something. Like I think the vocals going on last is probably the move. It's hard to mix vocals in well, but like when we're recording the instruments in my groups, that is always happening live in the moments. And sometimes you have to go to crazy lengths to do that. You put on these headphones like we have now, and you have to have crazy long mic cords so everyone could be in a separate room. So there's no mic bleed, but you still are jamming in real time. And nothing beats that kind of feel because it's human and natural and it's imperfect. And I think the imperfections can communicate more. There's because like if you hear like Led Zeppelin, let's say take like Whole Lotta Love, they did all their tracks, most of their tracks. I'm sure some Zeppelin enthusiasts will be like, oh, actually, I like something like the album cut, but they did most of their tracks. They played them live and they dubbed the vocals on afterwards. And you can hear like Whole Lotta Love varies for like 10 BPM. Like it'll speed up and it will slow down. It breathes like naturally, like you would in a live setting. Whereas you get music, like let's take, one that people usually attack, like Nickelback or something, that came out in a time where they had a thing called Beat Genie and beat correction, where people would take computers to use it and perfect their music. So it's like, oh, this thing is the same BPM throughout the entire song. And that's a reason why people kind of hate on it, is it was the first kind of music that started sounding really wooden. You're just like, it sounds, there's a little bit less human in this. And I think that, the live recordings offer that aspect. You make it believable, make it real, make it primal.
I did not know that about the beat thing. That makes so much sense now though.
Yeah. If you listen back to it, like it gets to the point where like, they'll be, oh, I don't like the way the drummer's hi-hat landed in there. Let me just go click on this and move it over. It's like, I don't know. That's cheating. I don't like that.
I wonder if that's why music from like the back in the day is so different than it is. Cause like there's music back in the day that is never going to die. Like people just keep loving these songs over and over again, even the new generations. And I think they do because there's something there. There's something human about it. Like you said, with the stuff now that's generated by computers, it's like, it's here 1 month and it's gone the next.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's also, I think, with just the media consumption, the rapid rate. I think things change faster now.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Just because of how you can take a development from halfway across the globe and synthesize it. Like, let's say some guy in Singapore creates a new interesting like way of processing a beat, and a guy in Montana will pick up on it. Like you like that kind of flow, because just the internet unlocks so much, and so much can flow like that. But it's so we're so rapidly changing. But I think back in those days, people fleshed out styles more, and you can see that, and that's why you can track and you can still track like histories today. But there's a really drawn out and intricate history from like, you know, you get from, you know, you take from like Robert Johnson to like Led Zeppelin, and you can see the development of these blues songs and how they track, and how there's like this slow evolution, and people introduce ideas, people will play with that, but it's not until the next decade that it truly gets fleshed out, and so on and so on, where it's a revolution.
My 1 o'clock's here.
What's it?
My 1 o'clock's here.
Oh shoot.
John, I've really enjoyed the conversation today. Get me some music. We'll throw it here on the end so that people can hear you.
For sure.
Where can they follow you at on social medias?
Social media. Let me pull up my handle real quick so I can read it out in the depth. Let's see. So you follow me at John JOHN _WIESE_ is my personal account, and my last word to John Wiese Band is LASTWORDSOF _JW, and that is my group. And you can follow us all there, find out what we're playing.
Dude, thanks a lot for coming in today, brother.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kyle.